was taking advantage of us. And look at where we are. We finally have someone in the White House saying enough is enough. And it happens to be the guy who authored The Art of the Deal. I'm going to peg my money on the guy authoring The Art of the Deal. And to Mark Levin's point, he said maybe this will be a great reset, like when we took down the Soviet Union during the Reagan years and we did it economically. Maybe to Mark Levin's point, that is what Donald Trump is doing economically with China. I'm going to put my money on The Art of the Deal guy.
Or maybe Mark Levin's a moron and doesn't know what he's talking about, and he and she are both propagandists and will never say what they truly believe. She would have you believe that she's putting her money on The Art of the Deal guy. Bear in mind, it's not as much money as it was a week ago, though. Even after he retreated, flailing from his biggest tariffs, everybody's accounts are still massively, massively down. And Keyleigh McEnany knows that as well as everyone does. By the way, we found out between yesterday and today that China's now jacking up their tariffs on our goods to 125%, which is a thing that I guess you can do. It's not quite as high as ours on theirs. We're at 145% because of something to do with fentanyl. And I have to say that while I've mostly been on board with the tariff thing, 10%, 30%, 80%, 145 seems too high. I think I could see 100. 145 seems like a lot. I think he's gone too far. But anyway, you know what else is going really far? The Chinese Finance Ministry spokesman, in his response to these new announcements, he says the US alternately raising abnormally high tariffs on China has become a numbers game, which has no practical economic significance and will become a joke in the history of the world economy. With tariff rates at the current level, there is no longer a market for US goods imported into China. Adding that if the US government continues to increase tariffs on China, Beijing will ignore. Because realistically, at the end of the day, once you've gotten to 125%, what's the difference if you go to 150 or 200? People aren't buying that stuff anymore. You just can't. And this is not like we both have super high levels, but that doesn't mean we're both gonna be hurt equally, because if you look at this chart, we import a lot more products from China than they do from us. So look, the damage to our businesses hoping to sell to China won't be quite as much, I guess, as it will be for them, although we will sell less products. But our consumers will pay a much bigger price because of how much more reliant we are on their exports. We import, or at least I should say, we used to import $440 billion, God only knows what that will be. And with these new jacking up of both of the tariffs on both sides, the stock market was hit even more. And I didn't know that that was possible, but we've been hit yet again. And we'll get to more of Karoline Leavitt trying to explain this away and some more of the really scary numbers sort of underlying all of this, but what do you make of it?
Yeah, and I have a super fun big prediction coming up in a little bit, and except it's not super fun, it's fairly dire. Okay.
You did predict, by the way, last Friday, anyone who believes that the tariffs are gonna remain at that level, he said that they're crazy if they think they're gonna remain.
Yeah, I actually think I haven't bragged about enough. Okay, and so we should really remedy that. But so you heard me, John, thanks for pointing that out. You heard me say it on this show, I said it on Piers Morgan, pretty spectacularly. Kari Lake apparently owes me an apology, that's awesome. And I said it on News Nation, on every show I went on. I said, look, I'm telling you right now, it's as bold a prediction as you'll get, meaning I am positive. And if I'm wrong, you come back and you flail me for this, that these tariffs won't last. And they didn't last. So, and because there's certain economic laws that are invaluable. You can say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bully, can you bully Republican politicians? Sure. Can you bully Democrats? Of course, right? But can you bully the bond market? It turns out, no. You can't, right? And so, look guys, you know what a clown Trump is because he flip-flopped and got nothing for it. So this talk of art of the deal, or as one of our members yesterday said, the fart of the deal, is like, come on. No, look, any right-winger at this point, whether they're in media or otherwise, like going around pretending that Trump meant to do all this. He meant to put catastrophic tariffs, which crashed both the stock market and the bond market at the same time, which previously was thought unimaginable. They usually go opposite each other, but he managed to somehow miraculously crash both of them. And then in a panic, he pulls out of all those tariffs except to China, and he gets nothing in return. And that was his plan? Well, if that's his plan, then the Russia folks are correct. He's actually trying to destroy the country from within and works for Saudi Arabia or Putin or whoever else. But there was no plan. He's an idiot. There, I explained it, which is gonna lead to my prediction in a second, but was.
I tend to echo your sentiments there. Look, I try to say this as much as possible talking about this tariff stuff. Tariffs don't have an innately positive or negative sort of quality. It's a tool that you will use for a specific end. And what the Trump administration has absolutely never done, besides vaguely bringing back manufacturing jobs to the US, which manufacturing jobs we don't know. They've never had a stated goal for the tariffs. Now, if it was like, all right, we want to make chips here, or we want to make, some of the high tech technology here. All right, cool. Let's make some more factories out here. Here's the problem with that. We even had tariffs on the raw materials that it would take to build these new factories. Now it's like, oh, the plan was always to isolate China. Okay, so why did we put tariffs on the rest of the world as well if the idea is that we're gonna collaborate with them to put China in a corner? There's no plan, there's no there. And I mean, in a dead giveaway where the McEneny lady sounds like a complete idiot, is Trump came out on Wednesday and he said, yo, people were getting yippy. Not a word. I think he was meant to say like they had the yips, they were getting nervous. People were getting yippy, so he pulled it back. That's it. He literally said it in plain English. It's not art of the deal. It's not grand plan. I changed it because the bond markets were crashing.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I want to kind of add on to both of you, but first let's get a little bit more from the press secretary.
Trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
What is he asking of Americans at this time? He talked about transition costs, transition problems. Is he asking something specific for Americans to do?
No, I think the president is asking for Americans trust in Trump, as I just said, trust in his economic agenda and formula. It's a proven formula that works.
I mean, everything's down. Like literally everything. The bonds are down, the stock market's still down, and prices are surging. I guess it's a proven formula. She didn't say it was a good formula.
Yeah,
she just said it was proven. So she's actually being honest for once. But she says to trust, okay, well then I'll trust him that it wasn't really a plan because he said he came up with it on Wednesday. So clearly it wasn't a plan. But by the way, that's not even true. That's not even true. Because I'm damn sure not gonna trust her, because on Monday, when the leaks were coming out and saying that they're planning a 90-day pause, what did she say? She said fake news. She said, this is why you're discredited. And then 2 days later, they paused it for 90 days. So I'm not gonna trust Trump, I'm not gonna trust her. And by the way, some people might come out of this reversal and be like, okay, good. We went in a crazy direction and now we've dialed it back, and I guess we're in the same spot. Except we're in basically every way in a worse spot than we were. First of all, stock market is not even close to where it was before he started adding on the extra tariffs. We're still down. We're still seeing the bond sell off. We're gonna get to some of the other fundamental numbers having to do with consumer confidence and uncertainty and all that. All that's worse. And maybe most importantly for Donald Trump, who would have you believe, hey, I prove now that I can like throw my fists around. Okay, and now they're coming to the table to negotiate. But what have you really done? He would imply he's now demonstrated his power. I would say he's given up all of the theoretical like chaos leverage he had, because in the past he might have said, come to the table, and if you don't, I'll put these massive tariffs on you. But now the whole world knows that if he does that, all they have to do is wait a week, and then he'll get the yips, and then he'll back off. He doesn't have even the stupid wild card leverage that he had before. And we've all paid for that. I don't know, I mean, obviously most Americans aren't in an economic position where they can necessarily own stock, but for those who do, I guarantee you're still down thousands, tens of thousands, maybe for a few of you, hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that Donald Trump could demonstrate just how inept and weak he actually is.
Yeah, so proven economic formula, it's true. Herbert Hoover proved that it causes depressions. So I wouldn't go back in that direction. So, and now here we are. You know, we talk about the Uniparty and how they're in a lot of ways mirror images of each other. And do you guys remember what the strategy for the Democrats during the Biden era was, when Biden seemed to not really be delivering on the progressive bills that he said he was gonna deliver on? They said, don't worry, later will magically make sense. And that strategy was called, quote, trust Biden. That's literal. That was Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal saying, trust Biden. Now we're at trust Trump, trust Trump. No, I don't trust either. Biden never delivered on those policies. Trump doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And the proof is in the pudding. He got nothing in return. Are we rebuilding manufacturing? Oh no, these tariffs are gonna stay for 10 years and absolutely through the whole term, and manufacturing is gonna come back. So he gave up on rebuilding manufacturing because they're gone. So which one is it? So none of that makes any sense.
And replacing the income tax with the tariff money, which now we won't have.
Yeah, of course, but it doesn't matter. Nothing's gonna stop that runaway train, right? Everything is about the tax cuts. They'll do nothing else. They'll do nothing else but the tax cuts, okay? So now, look, you've heard me say throughout all this, there is a right way to do tariffs, and you can target certain industries, and that's a progressive point of view to rebuild a manufacturing base through very specific and targeted tariffs. That's possible. That's obviously not what he did here. He did nuclear level. But I also, we're as about as fair as you could possibly imagine. I also say, hey, if you did an actual reciprocal tariff, they have 12% on us, put 12% on them, no problem, right? But if they have 12% on us and you put 145% on them, what is that? What is that? And China's right about that line about it being considered a joke in history. It will be considered a joke because they're right. Once you get to a certain, and John's right, once you get to a certain number, there's absolutely no difference between 100% tariff and 145% tariff because you cannot sell that product. It's too expensive. No one will buy it. So you know what, Trump? Yeah, they put 125%. We're now making 1,000,000% tariff. And I guess some folks would buy that, but come on, guys, get better, right? So now, so you could have done this in ways where it could have been effective if you were strategic, et cetera. But on top of that, I'm even in the camp of no, bullying people works, intimidating people works. We all wish that we lived in a world where it doesn't work, but it does. You've seen them bully the entire Republican Party, and you've seen them from time to time bully other countries with tariffs. But again, you have to be smart and strategic and go, okay, I'm gonna isolate Mexico, I'm gonna isolate Vietnam. And so now they're in a world of hurt because they're the only ones hurt by the tariffs. But we're not overly bothered by just Mexico or Vietnam putting tariffs on us. That's where we build up enormous leverage. That's how a smart person who believes in tariffs would do it. Now, what has he done instead? Again, maniacal, right? Tariffs to everyone. Oops, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Tariffs to no one. Now, like these gargantuan tariffs on China, which leads to my prediction. Well, first, let's go to our one of our members, Vicky here, on TYT.com. She says, Cenk, you're always right. Most of the time, sometimes. I'll take it, Vicky, I'll take it. So let's put it to the test now, okay? So my prediction is this. Yeah, no, the markets recovered, on that big day on Wednesday, everything bounces back when they thought he got rid of all the tariffs, or certainly he did get rid of most of them. And then it's had a little bit of an up and down and it was up today, et cetera. No, it's gonna crash again. And Trump's poll numbers are going to be disastrous in the next poll. And then the second and third poll, they're gonna be just in a free fall. Why? Because none of the price increases has hit yet. Yeah. All we've had is the stock market thing, but that affects your pension for some of you right away, but for most of you later, right? And a lot of you don't have any money in the stock market. So the great mass of American people are not nearly as affected as the people howling on cable news, who are mainly super rich, right? So it hit the super rich first, but it hasn't hit the masses yet. Already consumer confidence is way down. It's like at record low levels already, and they haven't gotten hit yet with the price increases. But it's okay, he took away the tariffs, right? No, we import so much from China. It seems like, well, it's just one country. No, that means not all prices are gonna rise at the same time as they would have if we kept the global tariffs. But that does mean your iPhone price is gonna skyrocket and 1,000 other products are gonna skyrocket in price. And since Trump is so good at propaganda, his side of the country doesn't understand that that's coming. Like when it was global, they thought, oh no, we'll have some short-term pain, and look, maybe I got to pay 5 cents more for eggs or something, but it's going to be all right because Daddy Trump, he knows. Trust Trump, trust Trump. We got this, right? He doesn't know nothing. And if you say to me now, oh, Jay, whoa, would you know? The Trump's president, he's going to know better than you. Okay, Perfect, good. Remember that, because I'm not making these bold predictions because they're hard. I'm making them because they're actually easy. It is inevitable. Your prices on a lot of products are gonna go up, and the American people are gonna be super pissed. That's phase 2, and that's gonna be more disastrous for Trump.
Here's what I think the viewers should have a better understanding of, is that even if Trump had the most flawless, impeccable plan to reorient our trade relationships, globally, he would have a hard time getting it through, because not only would he be fighting a trade war against China, but he's also domestically fighting a war against the other party. So he's fighting a two-front war here and doesn't have a massive support for this stuff. Like, sure, I'm sure most of the Republican base is still down for it. We're 3 months into this guy's administration. Sure, people are still on board. There are no Democrats down with it, and he's trying to destroy all of the Democrats and their institutions at the same time. So he's not galvanizing some massive popular support. This isn't FDR, right, during the Great Depression, where the Democrats had massive majorities in both House and Senate, and there was like an actual mandate. Like, unlike a dude that won by 1.5% who's pretending to have a mandate. So there's that. Like, there's disunity for his very unpopular agenda. And then what people need to understand is that they're going up against the People's Republic of China. I'm sorry, they don't have Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, the owners of the economy, acting in their own interest. When China says one of their major companies should jump, they say how high, and they act on one accord. That's the difference.
Yeah.
They can make decisions unilaterally for the benefit of their economy, right? And they can make those decisions not with the arc of a 4-year presidential term, or even potentially 8 years. 50 years into the future, these people are making plans. And Trump thinks that he can just show up and bully these guys as if they're not prepared and don't know every single pressure point of our own economy that is so intricately interwoven and tied in with theirs. It's insane. This isn't like, oh, we hate Trump. Yes, all three of us hate Trump. But this is a bad idea, right? Like, I was just saying the other day, like, sometimes, you take Biden with chips. I don't think we should have did the CHIPS Act. I think we should be trying to compete with China and beat their butts. We're Americans. We can be better than anybody if we put our minds to it. That's my personal belief. But you can understand the logic of, like, let's keep them out of the chips market. Let's keep building our AI infrastructure, because this is an important technology. Keep them out. I disagree, but you can see the vision. With this Trump thing right now, it's not that I don't like Trump. Yes, I don't like him, but there's no vision. There's no, all right, we're shutting off China's, industry in this sector of the economy. Here's this an American industry that we're gonna give tax incentives to. We're gonna spend government sort of investment with dollars. We're gonna open up the treasury for that industry. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. This guy's just going on TV and blubbering about. This is not going to work. It's going to fail spectacularly.
Waz, you're sounding like you're developing a case of the yips. Okay, okay. I just want to add one or two things, and you're totally right about China. And just like we don't have a trading relationship with China right now. That seems kind of crazy. I also want everyone to remember he's still got his crazy negotiations with Canada and Mexico. And he's still got that new baseline tariff on the entire world, which is around the level that initially he put on China that created the big dust up during his first term. That's worldwide. And it was sort of my fear that if he does this worldwide 10% tariff or whatever, and then he jacks it up even bigger and then backtracks, people will be like, well, this is totally cool and it doesn't hurt us at all. No, a 10% tariff on the entire world can still do quite a bit of damage, let alone the 25% on automobiles and those sorts of things. And again, he has not dialed those back. But I do want to just, to Cenk's prior point about what the political ramifications of this might look like, you need to look at this index of consumer expectations, sort of like a charting of how people think things are going and how they're gonna go, how they feel. And this, it's fun when you can say something historic, but April's reading was lower than anything seen as far back and during the Great Recession. It is the second lowest reading since 1952. And when you look at that chart, some of you are young, you may not remember all that. He's lower right now than Biden was when Biden got thrown out because he wasn't doing good on the economy. He's lower than the darkest depths of the pandemic. He's lower than the Great Recession. He's lower than when people were queuing up for oil or for gasoline during the 70s. And the most amazing thing about all of these is basically every one of those prior dips involved some level, complex world, but some level of act of God. Crazy things that this regime is doing, natural disasters, whatever. This is just Trump. He just decided, I'm gonna do some stuff, you know what? And I'm gonna get us lower than we've been basically since the Great Depression, purely because he is that monumentally, historically stupid.
Yeah, he kind of grabbed us by the genitalia here for no reason. And he didn't ask permission.
And just one last thing on John's point that I want to reiterate. Back in like the dot-com bust or the housing market crash in 2008 and just ruined the global economy. George Bush, not credibly, but George Bush could be like, well, I didn't do this, right?
Yeah.
Obama could be like, I just took over a bad economy, whatever. Bill Clinton could be like, yo, I could have never saw this coming, whatever. With this specific economic meltdown, there's no other reading.
Yeah.
There's no other causal effect. It's just Trump. He will wear this thing if he continues down this path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we show one more chart? Just because we have to give Trump credit for the amazing things that he does and when he breaks history. This chart of economic uncertainty, the line isn't supposed to go above the title. Look at that. The global pandemic barely registers compared to it. And that's purely just Trump. It took an international breakdown of public health, transportation, the economy. We literally were washing the exterior of our boxes of cereal and people were like, not so bad. Trump comes in there like, no.
And by the way, look, it's not like some sort of, the right loves to say Trump derangement syndrome and stuff. No, those numbers were perfectly fine when he won. They were actually pretty good when he won. So people were excited that Trump was coming in. They thought they were gonna get something better. Now that they've seen what they're gonna get, that number can be characterized in words as well, and it's called oops. And so last word goes to one of our members on TYT.com. Pseudo Dragon wrote in, the US has now proven that it is an unreliable ally and an unreliable trading partner, forcing the rest of the world to figure out how to get along without you. Just like when you pulled out of the Paris Accords, the US is never going to recover the place it once had. And so that's a devastatingly good point because once the world thinks, hey, okay, it's Trump now. First of all, that's 4 brutal years. But now we don't know who Americans are gonna elect. What if they elect another Trump? What if they, and another one and another one? So if these guys are totally unreliable and they act in spazzy ways like this, where they're like, oh, hey, ally, how you doing? Ally, and he slaps him across the face. Here's a 50% tariff. And they're like, oh, okay, so you guys are deranged. So obviously any rational set of people would make arrangements to go around you, right? And so that's what the entire world is doing now, making arrangements to go around us. And that has devastating long-term impact.
Yeah.
All right, love the members. Thanks for being part of the show. By the way, if you want to be one of the members as part of the show, tyt.com/join. You can get 2 months off of annual membership there, or you could hit the join button below on YouTube. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.